How do I execute a program or call a system command? How do I call an external command within Python, as if I'd typed it in a shell or command prompt?
Note that this is dangerous, since the command isn't claimed. See the documentation of the OS and system modules. There are a bunch of functions, exec asterisk and spawn asterisk, that will do similar things.
Use subprocess.run. Another common way is os.system, but you shouldn't use it because it is unsafe if any parts of the command come from outside your program or can contain spaces or other special characters. Also, subprocess.run is generally more flexible. You can get the stout, stare, the real status code, better error handling, etc. Even the documentation for os.system recommends using subprocess instead. On Python 3.4 and earlier, use subprocess.call instead of .run.
Here is a summary of ways to call external programs, including their advantages and disadvantages. os.system passes the command and arguments to your system's shell. This is nice because you can actually run multiple commands at once in this manner and set up pipes and input-output redirection, for example. However, while this is convenient, you have to manually handle the escaping of shell characters such as spaces, etc. On the other hand, this also lets you run commands which are simply shell commands and not actually external programs. os.popen will do the same thing as os.system, except that it gives you a file-like object that you can use to access standard input-output for that process. There are 3 other variants of popen that all handle the I/O slightly differently. If you pass everything as a string, then your command is passed to the shell. If you pass them as a list, then you don't need to worry about escaping anything. Example: subprocess.popen. This is intended as a replacement for os.popen, but has the downside of being slightly more complicated by virtue of being so comprehensive. For example, you'd say, instead of. But it is nice to have all of the options there in one unified class instead of 4 different popen functions. See the documentation. Subprocess.call. This is basically just like the popen class and takes all of the same arguments, but it simply waits until the command completes and gives you the return code. For example, subprocess.run, Python 3.5 plus only, similar to the above, but even more flexible, and returns a completed process object when the command finishes executing. os.fork, os.exec, os.spawn are similar to their C language counterparts, but I don't recommend using them directly. The subprocess module should probably be what you use. Finally, please be aware that for all methods where you pass the final command to be executed by the shell as a string and you are responsible for escaping it, there are serious security implications if any part of the string that you pass cannot be fully trusted. For example, if a user is entering some / any part of the string, if you are unsure, only use these methods with constants. To give you a hint of the implications, consider this code. And imagine that the user enters something, "My mama didn't love me," and an rf/, which could erase the whole file system.
Typical implementation. You are free to do what you want with the stout data in the pipe. In fact, you can simply omit those parameters, stout equals and stare smiley face, and it'll behave like os.system.